Alright, y'all. Nightmare Comics 1 here. Yes, before y'all say, I know you ain't made a video in a while, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I wanted to talk about this a little bit, because, on Twitter, um, Sunday night, Twitter went nuts. Pretty much after, The Walking Dead Season 2 midway stopping point stop, or whatever, 'cause you can't call it the end of the season, because it's not. It's taking a break till February. I just wanted to talk about the show in general and my thoughts on the episode and my thoughts on season 2 in general. All right, let me talk about my relationship with the brand Walking Dead. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of the comic. Like this video will have spoilers all over. Spoilers from the comic, spoilers from the show. Period. It's gonna be spoilers all over this video. So if you've never read an issue of The Walking Dead, if you've never seen an episode of the show, you may want to cut this off because it's gonna be spoilers everywhere on this shit. But I was a huge fan of the comic books a lot. The prison arc to me is like one of the best arcs in the history of comic books. Like, not even joking with you. The end of that arc is one of the best arcs in the history of this form of entertainment I love so much was this comic books. The just everything that goes on in this series, it's like this is just the books. It's like, things are repetitive, I won't lie. For the longest, things were really repetitive, but Rob Kirkman did such a good job writing the characters and making you care about each individual character. That's when they did something like they did in the prison arc, which was kill the main character Rick, his wife Lori, his wife and his newborn daughter. When they killed them both at the same time, it hit so hard because he did such a great job making you care about both of these characters. I just thought, I was really worried about the show. I didn't know if the show would really be able to convey that same type of deal. I was also worried they veered too far from the plot of the overall of the books and all that. But I was just really worried. I was really skeptical when the show debuted. I love that first episode. Because it's essentially the comic book. Like, it's hardly anything different from like half of the first volume and the first episode of the essentially the same thing. You know what I mean? I love that first episode. The first season as a whole, I thought, when the show debuted, I was so fired up because I've been such a big fan of these comics for so long, and I was like, you know what? And for the longest, I fell behind on Walking Dead because I had to drop it for a while because I had to drop a lot of books for a while because pockets were crying, but but I was so behind. I was like 20 issues behind, and after season 1 ended, I was like, let me catch up just in case they do something in season 2 that maybe I'll miss or whatever. So I caught up. Now I'm up to speed again with the books, but yeah. But what was I saying? Yeah, when it debuted, I was so pumped. I was like, that first episode was awesome, absolutely amazing. I cannot wait for to see what else they do with the show. You know what I mean? The first season as a whole I thought was good, even though it really veered off from the books. And I was wondering, why are they veering so off from the books? Why is Shane still alive? Why? Who are some of these characters? You know what I mean? And a lot of them characters that did die were worthless. But I was just wondering why are these characters here? Why is Shane still alive? Blah blah blah. Why are they making such a big deal about him and Lori's affair? When they had like a relationship. When in the books it was like Lori made a mistake. Lori is Rick's wife, by the way. But in the books, Lori made a mistake. Like she had sex with Shane and she felt like it was a mistake and she never did it again. You know what I mean? And in this, it's like they had a relationship because she thought Rick was dead. You know what I mean? And it works. It inevitably ended up working for the show. But I was worried that would become too much of the focus when that is not the spirit of the books at all. It's just not. And a lot of people, and I'm gonna get to this argument too in this video. Now, a friend of mine, right? I talk about him a lot, Doc Knockers. I got him on in this show. At first, he wouldn't even watch it, so that's one. And then, secondly, I got him into this show. I got him watching this show. And he was like, dude, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was dope. and I was like, I don't think it's amazing. I think it has problems. It doesn't necessarily capture, everything the book pretty much entails. And he was like, well, I don't give a shit, like, I don't read that anyway. So why should I care? And I'm like, well, dude, here's another example. When I said that to him, I was like, I'm gonna be upset, of course, because these are characters that I held on to. You know what I mean? It's like the curse of being a comic book fan, and every comic now is being adapted into something now. It seems like, but that's like the curse. You know what I mean? Like he was like, how you so mad at how they doing Andrea? Because Andrea is my favorite character in the book. I make no exception about that. That, like, probably next to Psylocke, like, that's probably like my fantasy comic book crush, like, ever. Andrea, like, I want Andrea so bad, so bad. But aside from Psylocke, ooh, I love Betsy. Oh, I love Betsy. But aside from her, I probably want Andrea the second most. You know what I mean? But what was I saying? Yeah, like, she's like on the show even still, but she's starting to, but she hasn't really been herself, like, on the show. You know what I mean? And a little, I was a little worried about that. I like the chick that plays her. She kind of even looks like Andrea a little bit. I like the chick that plays her. I ain't got no problem with her. I like pretty much all the actors. I don't have a problem with them except Lori. Lori's so hateable in the show. And honestly, if they kill her in the show, I probably wouldn't even be upset. I was really upset when they killed her in the book, but I probably wouldn't give a shit now. Let's be honest. 'Cause she's so hateable on this show. Like, y'all would not believe. But anyway, he tells me, like, you shouldn't have, you act like that with almost everything. These are characters that I love and that I'm attached to. I know I'm going off on a tangent, whatever. These are characters that I love and I'm attached to. You know what I mean? Of course I'm gonna be upset about it. Like, and I started watching the show too, and I love it. He's a big fan of 24. Okay, now, many of you might, like, some of y'all may have watched the show, some of y'all haven't. It used to come on Fox. I didn't watch it when it came on Fox. It's on Netflix now. And I caught up and I finished the whole show. I do think it's amazing. I think it's just as good as all the hype as it was getting when it was on the air. I do think it's an awesome show. Y'all hear that? That's like a plane passing by my house. But I do think it's just as awesome. Okay, that plane's fucking loud, or whatever that is. Y'all hear that? It's loud as hell. I think it's done. I hope so. Whatever. But it might have been something passing down the road. I don't know. But anyway, that doesn't matter. But yeah, I do think it's just as good as the hype it was getting when it was on the air. I really do. Well, I don't know if it's just, but I see why it lasted so long, and I see why season 5 like took the Emmys by the balls that year. I see why. You know what I mean? But back to my point. I was telling him that, you love that show. What if in this 24 movie that's supposed to be coming out next year, which I think is a terrible idea, but because one of the best things about the show is the real time aspect of it. But I was like, what if in this movie or whatever, Jack acts totally different than he did Jack Bauer, the main character, Kiefer Sutherland, the guy that played him. But like, I was like, what if Jack acts totally different than he did from the series? You not gonna be upset about that? You know what I mean? I was like, come on. Like, you can't knock me for that. You know what I mean? You just can't. Like, when I see this show, I think of Rick Grimes that I've been reading of for years and years, and he's pretty much spot on. I think of all these characters that, Dale, everyone. You know what I mean? I do. Glenn, all of them. Yeah, and I love Maggie on this show too, but I get there in a second. But I love these characters. And I'm so attached to them that when they do something different, it's gonna piss me off. It just is. That's why I can't really blame a lot of people for not really getting into the show, because it is very, very different from the books. But my thing is this, okay? If you look at this show like almost like an Elseworlds version of The Walking Dead, or maybe like Ultimate Walking Dead, you know what I mean, or something like that, or what do IDW call it? I forget what they call it, but you got Elseworlds, you got Ultimate, you got Marvel also with What If, and shit like that. If you think of it that way, you'll enjoy the show a lot more. Like, cause I don't think it's too far off to the point where it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like to the point it's not even the same story. I don't really feel like that. I feel like it's just a lot of things that are different about the story. You know what I mean? I believe there's overall Though I believe that it's especially season two. They have shown that they do at least pay attention to the books, and a lot of things that happen in this season, also happen in the books, like Carl getting shot by Herschel's son, wasn't it? Otis is Herschel's son or something like that. It might have been somebody different in the book. I can't remember. That was so long ago. But Carl getting shot, that did happen. It was an accident and it did happen. But Shane was not alive in the books for that. And I felt like Shane being alive in the show actually added a lot to that. You know what I mean? And especially what they ended up doing with Shane, with the medical supplies and Otis, you know what I mean? It added a lot to that scene because in the books, Shane was not there at all. You know what I mean? And Shane like at first Shane was trying to pretty much gain Laura's approval, so maybe she'd leave Rick and go back to him. At first, that's pretty much was his MO. That's what it seemed like, at least, for that whole Carl thing. Because he even said to Laura, he was like, "I'd do anything to keep you and Carl safe," and she told him it's not your responsibility anymore, and all shit. So that's how they made it seem like he wanted Lori back. You know what I mean? So it totally made sense. Like, they're pretty much building Shane up to be a bad guy. You know what I mean? And I feel like they're doing a good job building up the inevitable, falling out between him and Rick. I think they're doing a really good job of that. I also think that what's the name? The thing with Dale, Andrea, and Shane. I think that works really well too. Because Dale, if you read the books, Dale was always, and even in the show, he's always like the voice of reason. Meanwhile, Shane is like, you got to do whatever it takes to survive, man. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, it makes total sense. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't know, they finally introduced Herschel in this season, and what's the name? They finally introduced Herschel and Maggie, and pretty much Herschel's whole family and the people that stand with him and stuff. And Maggie and Glenn, they're item on the show and all that. So you can tell they're paying attention to at least what Rob Kirkman wrote in the books. You know what I mean? And people told me Rob Kirkman actually discussed that on the little after show, what's it called, Talking Dead or whatever. He actually discussed why, they decided to go such a different route, and what Rob Kirkman thought his vision was for the books, and what their vision is for the show, you know what I mean? And how it doesn't bother him what they're doing, stuff like that. It's just something he was saying. I was told that I haven't actually seen it. Somebody has a link to that, put in the comments, but I don't mind I don't mind it being so different, because in essence, especially this episode on Sunday, it kind of shows why everything is a lot different. You know what I mean? Like the reason why Sophia's dead. You know what I mean? If so ain't that her name in the comics, Sophia? She's still alive in the comics. You know what I mean? Now she's dead, and it actually makes a whole lot. Makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. And it also, she was actually probably the most important character in the season. You know what I mean? Because that's what really caused Shane to be like, Rick, you're a fool. We all know this girl's dead. Pretty much at the beginning of the season, she went missing. You know what I mean? And Rick was, he was so hell-bent on finding her because he thought she was still alive. And, she was, because at first they were running from, like, walkers. He told her to hide, and then he killed the walkers, and then when he came back, she was gone. You know what I mean? He was so just hell-bent on the fact this girl was alive. And, he was willing to do anything, to find this girl. And if y'all read the books, y'all know Herschel's barn was full of walkers because Herschel did not believe in shooting people. Okay, this is the episode that just ended on Sunday, so if you don't want spoilers, you need to cut this off. But if you're still watching this, I pretty much spoiled the whole series, so you're an idiot. But, like, if you read the books, Herschel, he thought he thought they were just sick people. You know what I mean? That's why he kept all the walkers and stuff. He's an idiot, pretty much. Yeah, I thought he was an idiot in the books. I think he's an idiot on the show. You know what I mean? But the guy that plays Herschel is also just as stubborn as he was in the books and shit. Don't look nothing like him, but he reminds me of that character. But yeah, Shane, they pretty much Rick and his camp find out about the walkers in the barn. Okay, because Glenn pretty much, opens his mouth. Everybody finds out. You know what I mean? And at the end, Shane, he pretty much, he goes berserk. Herschel also doesn't want guns on his barn, on his farm. He didn't in the books either, So Shane goes berserk, Rick, because Rick's trying to stay on the farm, because Laura's pregnant now, and now he knows, and he doesn't want, her to have to, travel, carrying a baby and shit like that. Makes sense. And he tells, Dale, hey, go hide these guns or whatever. Herschel doesn't want us to have these on the ground, so you go hide the guns. Shane goes to find Dale, pretty much punks him into giving him the guns, like, he's like, what did Dale say? Like, do I have to shoot you? And Shane was like, that's the only way. You know what I mean? So, he gives him the guns. And then, what's the name? Shane comes back to camp. He hands everybody a gun. He's talking to him. Then he sees Herschel and Rick and Herschel's son, pretty much guiding like two walkers to the barn or whatever. And he's like, what are you doing, Rick? We've seen these people rip off people's flesh. That's the same one got Amy, Andrea's sister and all that stuff, and all that shit. You know what I mean? He was like, we've seen him kill so many people. And he was like, this ain't our decision to make. And Herschel was like, these people are just sick. He was like, sick. He's like, people? And he started shooting them in the chest. And he was like, he started shooting one of them in the chest. He was like, if this person was sick, how they take so many shots to the chest and still standing, don't even flinch? What about that? That was right at the heart. You know what I mean? What about that one? And then Rick was like, that's enough. And then Shane was like, you know what? You're right. That is enough. Then he shoots the walker. And he's like, you know what? In this world, it's a dog-eat-dog world. We wasting our time around here. We're trying to find a little girl that's dead. Blah, 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 blah. If you want it, you better really want it. And he opened up he handed everybody, as he handed everyone a gun. And then he walked over to the barn. He opened up the barn. And, the walkers started coming out. Everyone was shooting. Shit like that. Herschel, he's all distraught or whatever. He's like, these people are just sick. He's an idiot. He's pretty much an idiot. And then, after they thought they killed all the walkers, little Sophia comes walking out of the barn. And it's a powerful scene because, the whole season, Rick had been looking for Sophia because he felt guilty about what happened. He told her he would protect her, and he didn't. She was missing. And Rick was the one that pulled the trigger. And it was just it's a real powerful scene. Like, if you haven't seen that, you need to see that scene. You've got to see that scene pretty much. Even if you don't watch the show, just by me giving you back, it's just the way they shot it, everything about it. It was just really powerful. Like, pretty much Twitter went nuts after that happened. You know what I mean? Like, I know some people cried about it, all this other stuff. You know what I mean? It's just a really powerful scene. And I thought that was like probably the best episode of the show. So just by that moment, Shane being alive, like, I complained to death in that first season that he was still alive. And I thought some episodes in that first season were just kind of off anyway. But I complained like crazy that he was still alive. And I see why they're doing it now. There is a means to the end. And like, him being alive adds a lot to that show. You just have to look at it as, a different story. I mean, if Walking Dead was just told a different way, it doesn't make the show bad. It doesn't make the story bad. It's just different. I mean, I know a lot of comic book fans, they don't like that show because it's so different. You have to look at it as being different. If you can watch those Batman movies by Nolan, I'm not comparing them. Chase, I know you're watching this video. I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying, if you can watch those movies and you see how different Nolan's take is on a lot of those characters, there's no reason you shouldn't watch that show and enjoy it. I'm not saying it's just as good either, Chase. I'm just saying. I know either you're watching this or, you're listening or you're going to talk to me about it later. But, I'm not saying it's just as good. I'm just saying that Nolan's take on Batman is a lot different than Batman. You know what I mean? And The Walking Dead is a lot different from the comics. But it's, it respects its source material just like those Nolan's movies do. So I don't get how people can watch those movies and say, I love these, because they are great movies. Like, if you're a fan of, like, if you're a huge Batman comic book fan, and you watch those movies and you say, those movies are so accurate, I love the depiction. I do love the depiction of, Batman. I do. But if you say, those movies are so accurate, just like what I've been reading for years, and then you're like, I can't watch The Walking Dead, it's too different. Makes no fucking sense. makes no sense at all. You know what I'm saying? Not even a little bit. But if that's your argument, it makes no sense. But like, if you don't like the show, tell me why you don't like the show. That's different. But if you don't like the show because you say it's different, that's stupid. But another thing I want to talk about real quick about this. I know I went on for a while, but another thing I want to talk about this show is Daryl. Like Daryl's a character that's not even in the comics. You know what I mean? Like Daryl and Merle. I got a prediction about Merle. I get to too, but Daryl and Merle, they're two brothers or whatever. Merle was part of the clique, and then in the first season, he pretty much went crazy. And, he beat up the black dude, called him a nigga, all that sort of shit. Rick handcuffed him to a roof, and a whole bunch of things happened in the episode I want to talk about. But pretty much they had to leave him. You know what I mean? They had to leave him behind. Daryl was pissed off. They went to go find him. I'm gonna tell you, he gets away, and now he's been like missing. We don't know if he's necessarily dead or not, but he's missing. You know what I'm saying? And Daryl's been with them the whole time, pretty much. Also trying to find his brother and Abe. Keeping everybody alive. As a matter of fact, he was one of the main people that wanted to find Sophia. You know what I mean? Because he was like, same shit happened to him when he was a kid, and just all this stuff. He was genuinely concerned about her. You know what I mean? And I love that character. I think like that's probably the one thing that I really like more about that show, even more so than Shane still being alive. I really love that character of Daryl, because Daryl's such a badass. You know what I mean? He shoots first, asks questions later. You know what I mean? You can tell he has a heart because of the whole Sophia thing. I just love that character. And his brother Merle, I think there's big plans for him. Okay, and I tell you what it is. I know a lot of people made this speculation, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it. In the comic books, okay, there's a character known as the Governor of Woodbury. That is the man pretty much who arranged, them to raid the prison they were in and all that stuff. He's pretty much the only real villain that the comics has actually had. I mean, he's probably one, and just for his short time being in the books, he's probably one of the most just hateable characters. Like he was one of the best villains of all time in comic book history. This is my opinion. If I had like a top 50, he would make the top 50. That's just real shit. That's how good of a villain he was for the little amount of time he was in that book. And what are they doing out there? Can y'all hear that? But I believe that for this version of The Walking Dead, Merle will be that character. You know what I mean? Because the governor, he had his own little like almost neighborhood town type deal, if you will, and he was like the dictator behind the whole town. He was rationing people's food. He was catching zombies, using them as entertainment to fight each other. I believe that's the route they're gonna go with Merle. I really do. That's my prediction, because we don't know he's alive or not. You know what I mean? That's just what I think will happen. I know a lot of people have been saying that. I'm not gonna say I'm the first person to say that, but I would be truly shocked if that's not the direction they went with Merle. Just shocked. I'd be totally shocked if they're gonna do that character. That's how they should do it. Because they've already pretty much laid the groundwork for it. If the governor will be in the show, Merle should be that character. This is what I think. But anyway, I've rumbled on too much about the show. I would definitely recommend this show. I don't know what motherfuckers. If you hear comic book fans tell you we don't like that show, I don't know what they're talking about. I would definitely recommend that show. I don't watch enough TV to say it's the best show on TV or nothing like that, but I definitely know it's one of the better ones. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely know that. Because there's so much shit to watch on TV. Like, I've been getting into Breaking Bad. That's a really good show. I'm not gonna count animated shows because my favorite show is probably Transformers Prime, but it's a lot of good shit on TV. You got Sons of Anarchy. I hear is amazing. I'll watch that soon. Just a lot of stuff. I hear Mad Men is good. But that's it. Walking Dead, if nothing else, is at least among those shows. You know what I mean? So I would definitely say check it out. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on season 2 so far. When it's over, I'll give my full thoughts on the season. So yeah, I'll holler at y'all later, man. Don't know what my next video is gonna be. It's something I do want to talk about. So I'll probably talk about that next. But anyway, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.